The next one is a fun one for me. Kinetic energy. Kinetic energy, right? The thing with kinetic energy is you got to take massive action and move. You got to move. Energy is not enough in and of itself. It's got to be kinetic. It's got to be moving really fast and rubbing everything that you're touching, and you're transferring energy. That's how you do it. How do you get people to buy into a mission and a vision? How do you get people to sell out onto what you're trying to do and accomplish? How do you get your spouse to buy into the dream that you're working so hard for, and all they do is talk about your shortcomings as a spouse? How do you do it? You have to show up and move. You have to move. Bring them with you. Rub them. They might not run with you, but if you run by them enough, you're going to transfer energy to them. What kind of energy are you giving off? What kind of energy are you giving off? This is foundational to the operating system of you as a human being to be able to have success in every area of your life. It starts with you. It starts with you. Kinetic energy. Take massive action. Stay consistent. Again, consistency. If you come in and you're on a high moment and everything is great and you're trying to get people on that, but the moment that things get hard, you turn into a coward and you start whining and you start complaining and you start making excuses, that's not a consistent energy. It's really hard for you to transfer it to someone and for them to be able to buy into what you're talking about if one day you're up and one day you're down and you're all around and you're doing these things. It is a transfer of kinetic energy. You have to be able to stay consistent with it. Show up the same way. Consistency wins all the time. Staying consistent. I have someone very close to me in my life said, from a physical aspect, how in the world do I do this, man? Like in my mind, like I'm just an overachiever. I want to be the best from day one. And he was like, "That's cool, bro, but like you've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years, but this one area hasn't moved at all. Commit to 1% better daily and have the compound effect." That's one way of looking at it. But consistency matters, right? This isn't going to change overnight. You're not just going to listen to this, write it down, and all of a sudden your life's going to be better and you're going to be on par and everything's going to run smoothly. It doesn't work that way. But your energy, if you can set a proper expectation for yourself of what you are accomplishing, and every day you can measure it and you can say that you are moving in the right direction, the hard days, the good days, the bad days, the indifferent days, you showed up the same. You've built a kinetic energy that's transferable, and you're always going to have that. And the friction that's created is going to create movement and transfer of belief and energy inside of the circles that you're serving. It's impossible for it not to work, right? The next piece of it is empowered relationships. If you're in this business and you're in this thing, you're going to go through changes, new levels, new devils. You're going to find out that people that you hung out with were holding you back, and people that you're hanging with aren't pulling you forward. And you got to kind of have a hand out and a hand up at the same time. But if you're not finding the circle where you're the lowest hanging person in the room and you've got a hand on them and they're pulling you up, it's okay to reach down and pull those up around you. But you have to create empowered relationships where the relationship is empowering to you, and you've also positioned yourself to empower others. And it starts with deep connections. How do you create a deep connection with someone? Be where your feet are. Be where your feet are. Oh man, TJ, when I walk into the office, everybody there, if I told them to drink the poison Kool-Aid, they drink the poison Kool-Aid. But when I go home, my wife looks at me like I'm a nothing. How you showing up there? Are you where your feet are? Or are you on the couch with your spouse replying to emails at work because you've got everyone at work convinced that you've got it under control? And the reality is your spouse is seeing the real version of you, and it's a distracted version of you, and there's no time for anything else version of you. Or are you connected? Are you able to do that? Are you able to have a deep connection by simply being where your feet are? If you're sitting with your kids, focus on your kids. If you're talking to your spouse, focus on your spouse. If you're going to dinner, eat dinner. You can scroll Facebook later. You can reply to Slack messages later. You can read that email later. Connect. That's where it's wrong. It's not an empowering relationship if you're not even present.